The Dingers podcast is on the air. I'm your host, Mitch. I'm here with my boys, Jeff, Jake, and Kevin. Boys, we're back. It's been a long time since we've been on the mics, but now we got some Cubs news to talk about, so we're excited to jump into that. But first, we want to say that we are proud to be part of the On Tap Sports Network, so make sure you're going checking out them and ontapsportsnet.com, as well as go check out Cubs on Tap. They're our buddies and kind of podcast, what do you call them? Partners in crime, trying to tackle just Cubs in general during the season and in this off season. But make sure you're checking out Cubs on Tap and On Tap Sportsnet. But boys, Cubs are starting to do things, so now we're getting back together, calling the gang back together because we have some things to talk about. Got Shota Imanaga, made a big trade with the Dodgers. We'll be talking about all that, as well as making our predictions and kind of like what we would do if we were Jed and Carter, of what other relief pitchers would be going after, as well as what bats are we going to be picking up. So we got a lot to talk about tonight, but how are you guys doing? It's been a while. Feeling good about the temperature where the Cubs are at this offseason? Let's start with you, Kevin.
Well, I'll tell you, if you had asked me this a couple weeks ago, I'd have been like, what offseason? Are we doing anything? I felt like, was it like last year or the year before, everybody's posting like the memes of like poking the dead thing and like, Jed, do something. Do something. And then, a couple moves later, and we're suddenly like, this is fantastic. Well, I love baseball. I can't wait for the season. We got NFL playoffs, so that's coming to an end before too long. We're gonna have pitchers and catchers reporting soon. Feeling good. What about you, Jake?
Yeah, the football season is over, so we can focus on baseball now. Much like the last episode that I was on, the football season hadn't started. So I went an entire football season without talking Cubs baseball here. I'm with you, Kevin. It's been a pretty boring off season, which has been, it's been nice to kind of let myself recharge and not focus on baseball. I think I overdid it with the baseball consumption last summer for the first time in my life. So I got a little burnt out. And I even got to the point of telling Kim last week, I said, I wonder if I just don't really care about baseball as much anymore. Not to say that I don't care about it, but maybe it's just like I'm not, as diehard as I once was. And then Jed signed Shota and says, "You sure about that? You sure about that?"
You're right back in.
Yeah. Of course, stealing my own content with the tweet that I sent out last week. But yeah, it's been a slow winter. It's freezing cold here in Madison. We just got over a foot of snow at the end of last week too. So I'm ready for spring training. I'm ready for some late off season hot stove from Jed. Jeff, how are you doing, man? How's the health? How are you holding up?
Oh, not too bad. I got a slight head cold, chest cold, a little bit of sternum discomfort, but if it wasn't for those two things, I'd feel like $1 million. I mean, good. I came out on the right side of things, which is good. So I've been very active. I've been walking, about 5 miles every day, even in the bitter cold. Kevin saw some nice frosty pictures of me from Sunday morning. It was pretty brutal. 17 below, felt like 40 below, and I walked almost 5 miles. So, but as far as the Cubs off season, like for me, it's like been business as usual. The last 3 seasons, don't expect much until it gets really close to spring training, and they're going to try to sign anybody and everybody they can. So we need some bats. We need a couple of arms. Fill the cart. Check it out. Let's go, Jed.
Yeah. I'm kind of like you guys, and I've had a lot of my students ask me like, "Hey, who's your favorite football team?" Like, and I keep telling them like, I watch 162 baseball games, and that's like probably I watch more because I check out other teams as well throughout the season. It's like by that time, when you get done with the baseball season, it's like I just don't have time to invest in another thing. And if I watched any more sports, my wife would probably like kill me. And so it's like I do take a little bit of like football break. Like I check in and watch some football, but like I don't have enough time to like invest in. And so like it's good now that baseball is picking back up that I can kind of re-engage a little bit and get back into the sports world, because I have kind of feel like I've distanced and checked myself out. But all it took was Cubs getting a pitcher, and I'm back in. And they got their guy, a guy that kind of like, yeah, I wanted Yamamoto. Like, I wanted that. But I am really happy with getting Imanaga like that. I think that fits with what the Cubs want. A really high strikeout guy with over in Japan. He was really high strikeout, relied on his fastball, has a really nasty splitter, kind of like Singa's splitter, but more from the left side. It's a little bit different. And so I think he plugs into that rotation really, really well. And I feel like, man, we're going to be stacked when it comes to left-handed starters.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a difference than all other major league teams that in their rotation. They're not going to have, we could possibly have 3 lefties.
I think we will. I mean, I think we will. I think that at some point, regardless of whether or not there's another move made, which I do think that there will be another starter brought into the mix. Whether, I don't know if it'll be like, we're not in on Snell. There have been no Blake Snell rumors, and that's fine.
Maybe Jed's just doing his thing, hiding in the shadows.
Look, we've had, all season we haven't been able to talk about it. I don't think I've really tweeted about it either. I'm not a Blake Snell guy. I think he's a very volatile pitcher, and I think that he's been too up and down, and he's coming off of a Cy Young season. So of course that his price is going to be high. I wanted to ask you guys something kind of going off topic, but you mentioned Yamamoto, and just really quick temperature check on you guys, since we haven't been able to talk about it. The Dodgers contracts that they've shelled out, just really quick. I just want you to tell me good for baseball, bad for baseball. That's it. We'll move on. Start with you, Jeff. Good for baseball, bad for baseball.
I think it's bad. I mean, what if other teams start doing it, and then like down the road when they can't really afford to pay those salaries, like what's going to happen? I mean, I just was kind of contemplating it all day, thinking, what if other teams are just starting to defer a bunch of money, and then when it comes to the end of the contract, like, I mean, are they just going to be terrible franchises because they got this huge bill to pay at the end? I think it's bad.
And you compare what the Dodgers are doing to what Jed is doing, like even with Imanaga's deal, like he's like, okay, I'm willing to give you more money up front for 2 years, and then you could possibly get up to 5 years, but I'm willing to give you more money now. Like Jed's kind of working the exact opposite of what the Dodgers are. I mean, I think team spending money is good for baseball. Spending money on players, in investing in like Shohei, he's the best probably player that we'll ever see play the game in our lifetime. Probably he's the best ever. And yeah, he should be getting the money that he got. Like he's well worth it. But the deferment thing, that's where it's I don't know.
It's like if you see something you want, but you don't have the cash in your bank account, so then you take out the credit card that's got 18% interest and you just swipe it and then deal with it later.
I was thinking about flying out to a Dodgers Cubs game and then asking if I could just defer my payment on the tickets and beer and hot dog I get down the road. I'm good for it. I will be good for it in 10 years from now. Like, could I?
Yeah. Well, with their payroll that the Dodgers are pulling, like their hot dogs are probably like $26 a piece or some shit.
Yeah.
There's no way you're going to see a beer cup snake in that stadium ever. People can't afford that shit.
That's what I view this as bad for baseball. A couple reasons. One of them, the Dodgers should have the highest payroll across all the teams. We all know that. Now they're playing games within that. So like whoever, I can't remember who owns the Pirates or the losing or the White Sox. The teams that are trying to play with these like tiny little budgets and try to be, competitive. And now you've got this wackiness on top of it, and it's just like. Okay.
Wait,
I did think it
playing
was
for
funny.
you, but you're not paying him.
Right. But I thought it was funny. Even in Shohei's contract, it has ties to the president of baseball operations and like the owner or something. And it's like, yep, if they leave, I get all my money now, and I'm free or whatever. Like my contract's broken, and like
and just
Oh, those are IOUs. Those are
and just to wrap it, because I didn't mean it to go on this long, but just to wrap it, I think it's bad for the players. I think it sets a bad precedent in the sense that, like, yes, the players are getting paid, but the money that they're getting down the line is going to be worth less. Like, because of inflation, when they get paid, when Shohei gets paid, and it doesn't matter to him, he's a unique situation because he's already making, I think I saw $50 million a year in
his baseball contract didn't matter. The money on that.
Yeah, and the promos that he does, he's making, tens of $1 million a year, so he can delay that payment. But yeah, I wanted to see what you guys thought about that, but got a little off the rails. Mitch, get us back on track here.
Well, let's talk a little bit of Imanaga. Like, how do you think he fits in this rotation? What are your expectations right off the bat with him, especially coming over from Japan? Usually it might take a little bit for Japanese hitters to adjust. Do you think that same adjustment will be happening for him as a pitcher? Or do you think he's going to, like Senga? I mean, he came in last year for the Mets and shoved for a while until teams kind of figured it out a little bit of like, okay, just don't swing at the fork ball and we're good. Just hit his other stuff. But Imanaga is a little bit different than Senga. He has 5 pitches, has a really good fastball, lives up in the zone as a high strikeout guy over in Japan. Where do you think he kind of fits in with this rotation? How do you think he's going to do there, Kevin?
So because I had been paying attention to the Shohei stuff and now I even forgot his Yamamoto stuff. After that, I kind of quit paying attention because I was frustrated because the Cubs weren't doing anything. So I was just doing some research into Imanaga today, and I didn't know that his nickname over in Japan is pitching philosopher.
The philosopher, and now the other in the professor.
The professor, and throws a low velocity forcing fastball, plays off of changeup, some off speed stuff. Got that wipeout splitter supposedly. Hopefully that translates over well. I see him a little bit like a left-handed Kyle Hendricks, missing bats instead of the ground ball kind of tendencies. And what was interesting, I saw an interview, or I was reading an interview with him, and he's talking about how he doesn't view himself as a complete player yet, and he doesn't think he ever will. He's hungry to learn. He's hungry to pick up new pitches and learn how to pitch in the big leagues. I expect a little roughness to start with, but I think his mindset's in the right place. He's already singing the song, and he's going to have some guys to learn from. I'm excited. I think he's going to fit in well. Is he a top end guy? I don't necessarily think so, but how many different guys on our roster have over the years have we said not top end guy, and then they go out and put out near Cy Young seasons? So, Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Going back to the Kodai Senga comparison, obviously it's an easy thing to look at because they played in the same league for their, the first halves or more of their careers. And just looking at the numbers, just the standard pitching stats, I don't want Cubs fans to think that Shota is going to be a Kodai Senga level of pitcher. He was not as good in the NPB. His ERA was about 0.3 lower. Still, I think I closed out the window, but I think it was 3.16. The one thing that Shota has is that he has better command. His walks per 9 are lower, so the ball's going to be put in play. But that does mean that the ball being put in play, I think, then coincide with a slightly higher home runs per 9. But yeah, with the probable defense, and the defense could get better based on the moves Jed makes. I think that Shota is going to fit in well in that sense. I think it's interesting too. We talk about his fastball, and I'm just looking up Justin Steele's fastball here really quick. So
you talked about no walks. I do want to say last year he only walked 24 guys total.
Yeah,
the whole season.
Yeah, that's nutty. So
man,
Justin Steele's average fastball last year from the left side was 92, and I saw stuff of Shota hitting 94, and I think that if Shota can hit 94, granted, he has to adapt to fewer off days in between starts. and he said he's going to talk to his teammates about that, how to adapt his regimen to fit. Then the final thought that I'll give is, so my point there is that his average fastball velocity might dip a little bit lower. So as Kevin said, it might be a lower 90s fastball over the long term of the season, over the course of the season. But the interesting thing, getting back into my numbers, Jeff, I know you love it.
I love numbers. We don't need alphabet soup. We need number soup.
Number soup. I'll talk to my people about it. Eno Saris, the pitching plus stuff plus guru, actually had Shota's fastball as the best fastball by stuff plus in the World Baseball Classic, which is saying something. I mean, there were some stud arms in there. He was going up. I think that was compared to Sandy Alcantara's power sinker, a better stuff plus number than that. And there's one other pitcher that was brought up in that conversation too. But yeah, I think that, like Kevin said, not top of the rotation arm, but the fact that he does want to continue to get better, and now he's going to be facing better competition. There might be better, who knows, maybe there's better technology that the Cubs can implement in helping him get better. Yeah, just a guy that wants to get better is the kind of guy that I want in my rotation. So while it wasn't the signing at the beginning of the season, or the beginning of the offseason, if you told me, hey, we're signing this guy, I'd be like, okay, cool. Now all the context makes it a little bit more exciting.
Goofy Goober asks, where does Shota fit in the rotation? Love the name. And I would kind of say, like, he probably going to be 2, 3, 4, somewhere around there. I think it's going to depend who they feel like they need to break up. Like, they probably aren't going to pitch Steele and him back to back, or Wicks and him back to back. They're going to try to break them lefties up a little bit. And so I could see Tyone fitting into number 2 from seeing that Tyone is working his tail off to not let last year repeat. Love to see what he's doing. So I expect a huge bounce back year from Tyone. So I would see like Tyone 2, Shota maybe 3, and then kind of whoever, like it's going to kind of jumble around 3, 4, 5. And we do have to know, in Japan, they usually are on a 6-man rotation. Yeah. And so that's also a factor. The Cubs have a ton of starting pitching depth. Does the ass man get his chance in a 6-man rotation? Have Assad be in there, or Wicks, or does Wisniewski? Like, we have a whole bunch of things to play with, and it's good this year. And I still think there could be a possibility that the Cubs even add another starting pitching arm. I've thrown out Brandon Woodruff. I would love if we could get him on a really sweet deal coming off kind of the same surgery that Hendricks had. Noah's Craig Counsell. It's a guy who gets a lot of strikeouts. The Cubs have said over and over the last couple of years they need guys that miss bats. He misses bats. Depending on what type of deal. I haven't heard anything about anybody offering Brandon Woodruff any contract. And so I could see, with Craig Counsell being very familiar, that being a possibility of fitting in there. So that's just my thought. I would love to see that. But we do have depth in our rotation, which is always a good thing. We saw last year where we struggled with depth there for a while. We even thought at the beginning of the year we have all this depth. And then once it got down to it, when we're making our push, we didn't have it. But back to
I do think it's worth noting, I believe Woodruff is out for the season.
Yeah.
So you'd be paying for his, which the Cubs have done before. Yeah. You'd be paying for his rehab season probably on a 2-year deal, so that you get that kind of pillow contract for him. So yeah. And you make a good point that because we have Counsell, maybe you get kind of a sweetheart deal there. But yeah, I mean, it's tough too, because what does the timeline of the pitching prospects look like?
We can always defer his salary.
That's true. That's true, Jeff. Good point.
It's like layaway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing.
Whatever happened to layaway? That used to be a big thing.
Yeah. It'd be huge.
Something with the Imanaga that's you don't even know what that is? Too young.
So it's where you go to a store.
I wanted you guys to feel old.
All right. You go to a store and you buy something, but you don't have all the money, so you make payments and they keep it until you've made all the payments.
I love it.
Can you imagine if you bought a car that way? All right, we're gonna store this. Let you know when you pay the $80,000.
There'd be a lot of like vintage vehicles still in garages. But getting back to Imanaga, like something we've talked about is fastball. In Japan, he lived up in the zone with his fastball, and that's because his fastball does something that a lot of fastballs in the major league don't do. One, he has a really low arm slot, and it appears to get a lot of ride and stay up in the zone for a lot longer. And so just that perception, it's really hard for hitters, especially coming from the left side. That's why he makes his fastball, why his fastball is so effective, and why he is so effective at playing other pitches off that fastball, is because it's different than anything else in the major leagues. It's different than anything in Japan, and it's gonna be awesome to see him use that, especially with his splitter. I think he used his splitter quite a bit last year off of it, and I think those two pitches are going to play. It's going to be kind of like what we've talked about with a lot of pitchers. Can they have that third pitch that can be effective? We've seen his other 5 pitches that he throws. He's been able to take his third, fourth pitch and make it effective in Japan. Can he find a third or fourth pitch that can be effective in the major leagues? Because it's tough to be like Justin Steele and only use 2 pitches and be very effective. But the Cubs have figured it out with Justin Steele. Can they do that with Shota? So moving on, let's talk a little bit about the trade, getting Michael Busch and who I can't remember the pitcher's name.
Yency Almonte.
Yes.
Almonte.
See, whenever you guys practice pronouncing these names, because I say Shota and I don't come up with how you guys say it. Like I'm a mahogany comes out of my mouth. So I don't. How long?
Because you are a stick.
This shit.
Well, every time I think of Almonte, I just think of that kid that was in the Little League World Series that his last name was Almonte, struck everybody else out. And then we found out he was like 18 playing against 13-year-olds. So, but what do we think? Let's talk Michael Busch first, because we'll talk about relief pitching here in a little bit. Let's talk just the Michael Busch of making that trade and getting him. We're not going to talk about what we gave up. We're going to talk more about Michael Busch as a player. Do we like him as a player, acquiring him, and where do we see him fitting in this lineup and what position? So let's start with Jake.
Yeah, I think it's a great acquisition. As it's been talked about, he's a guy that was blocked in LA. He didn't get the opportunities, behind Justin Turner, then Freddie Freeman. Mookie Betts now playing second, which is Busch's natural position. They also have Chris Taylor. So and Kike Hernandez, they had guys ahead of him. And that's why, Cubs fans are like, okay, why is this guy, being talked about like he's a big shot? And that's why, his minor league numbers, if you look at his minor league track record, it's extremely impressive. And the big thing that's been pointed out is his contact rate. He makes contact with pitches in the zone, and he's picky. Sometimes too picky has been one of the biggest things brought up against him, because that led to higher strikeout rates. Kind of like we saw Kyle Schwarber back in the day. He would just wait, and then you'd see a called third strike, and he'd try to argue the call. It's like, dude, swing the bat. So it looks like last year in the minors, Busch got a little bit more aggressive at the plate, just based on his walk rate stayed up, but his strikeout rate went down, and all the other ratios went up that you'd like to see. I think the very interesting thing for me is that they immediately, I've seen that his defense at third base is not great, but the interesting thing to me is that they immediately are saying he's going to play first base. So that says to me, Matt Mervis is probably out, or is going to be packaged in some trade somewhere. And it goes back to one of the things that, I'm getting a little off topic here, but I wish they would have sold high on Matt Mervis. And I think that that's something that Cubs fans should be comfortable with, is the idea of selling high on any player, not just prospects, but selling high on players that, maybe are playing a little bit above their heads. So unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see any Mervis this year, unless that's the biggest implication for me. I don't think we're going to see a lot of Mervis this year, if any at all, unless he has an incredible spring. But obviously the biggest thing, pop from the left side, which obviously they need. Jed's pointed that out. And overall, I think it's a great trade. I think you don't see prospect swaps super often. I can't tell you the last time the Cubs did it with anybody, but getting rid of someone like Jackson Ferris, I know a lot of Cubs fans are upset about it, but I reposted something on Twitter. The Cubs' top prospects, thumbs up. Thanks. If you're watching on YouTube, this camera now gives you great emojis or whatever. The Cubs' top prospects from 2021, a lot of those guys didn't pan out, and that was only a couple years ago. Or it's like there's been a ton of movement. So yes, Jackson Ferris could be very good. And I actually like his odds now being in the Dodgers system, but he's 19 years old. So if you can trade a 19-year-old for a guy who's been on the periphery and ready to go, and someone like Michael Busch, it's a great trade. I would have liked to see something bigger. I would have liked to see, the rumors earlier on in the offseason for someone like Josh Naylor in a Shane Bieber deal with the Guardians, but obviously it doesn't look like that's going to happen now. Michael Busch is a great consolation prize, and I think consolation prize is even selling it a little bit short. So excited to see what he brings to the Cubs roster.
Yeah, he's definitely going to bring a stick from the left side that the Cubs desperately need. It needed to have a left-handed bat. They're pretty right-hand heavy, and just thinking about Belly being in there too. That's two power lefty bats in the lineup, which not a lot of lineups have that. And so I'm excited.
Don't forget Miles Mastrobuoni and Edwin Rios too.
Oh yeah, Mastrobuoni. You got to think about all the home runs
he's
going to hit.
He's still on our roster.
Yep,
Mastrobuoni is, and Mastrobuoni had a great September, if you guys remember. So
he did. He really popped off in September.
Hey, some people are slow starters. They start until you finish.
The thing that I am a little bit questioned about when it comes to Busch is he played in a league and a field in the minor leagues that was very homer friendly and plays really small. And so last year he batted .323, slugged .618, had 27 home runs in 98 games, which that's a lot of home runs. I mean, I think they said if he had in his last 100 games or 162 games, he would have almost 60 home runs. If you total up his last couple of seasons, crazy amount of home runs, but
that feels good.
That's pretty good.
A good thing. Yeah.
But he's played in a very, very small park in which you kind of look at who's the shortstop for the Dodgers. He was hurt last year. Big prospect.
Oh my God. Gavin Lux.
He kind of had the same thing, had a ton of home runs in the minors, and everybody's expecting him to come to the Dodgers and do the same thing. We haven't really seen that power come out of him quite yet. Not to say that we haven't really got to see his career take off. And so maybe this year when he's healthy, we might see that power numbers come up. So I would like to see that play at Wrigley. Can Michael Busch be able to provide the power that we see that we've seen in the minors? Now, when you talk about him with Mervis, when you're comparing the two, you're like, hey, we got Busch, but we've had Mervis who's hitting the minor leagues also. Why not just stick with him rather than giving up some assets that we've had in the minors? The big difference between Busch and Mervis is, one, their contact rate and their swing and miss rate. They're totally different hitters when you look at those two stats. And you need to put the ball in play, and you can't strike out, especially when you have other guys in your lineup that are going to strike out. We still have Patrick Wisdom. We still have Christopher Morel. They're going to strike out. The thing is, we're going to take their power with their strikeouts, so it kind of evens itself out. But when it comes to Busch, he's going to put the ball in play. And he's batting at a high average, and he's been hitting a lot of home runs. So I love the trade. I think it's going to really pan out, and it's going to be a guy we're going to have a dude that's going to be in our lineup now for a while. We're going to have that guy.
Yeah, and I really quick, I know I already said my piece, but I'll try to make this quick. Scott says in the chat here, according to the CHGO YouTube chat, this was the worst trade in MLB history. Right, Cody? It's Cody Del Mendo, our buddy at CHGO, is in the chat as well. Thanks again for tuning in. If you're live with us on YouTube, we're going to be more frequent as the season starts ramping up. Mondays, usually 8:15, 8:30, you can expect us to go live. Please join us in the YouTube chat. I think that, like you just kind of hit on the head, Mitch, Michael Busch is ready to go. Jackson Ferris is, maybe 2026, end of 2026, 2027. He's 19 years old. Like, this is a move that impacts the team now. And if you're a Cubs fan that's been begging for Jed to make competitive moves, Michael Busch is not going to be a star on this roster, like the star power that the Cubs need, but he's going to be a great complementary. I think he's going to be a great complementary piece. Like, this is not an Eric Hosmer, Trey Mancini signing. This is a guy who's been ready to play Major League Baseball for a couple years now and just hasn't had the opportunity. And that comes from when you're playing on a team like the Dodgers that has the ridiculous position player talent that they have. So I understand people being upset about Jackson Ferris. Yes, he might pan out for the Dodgers, but we get something now, a piece that should help the team now. And I think that's the right kind of, if you want to call it mortgaging the future, these trades are inevitably going to happen. We knew that this was going to happen, that Jed was going to trade prospects for MLB talent. Is it surprising that this guy's not an established MLB piece? Yeah, I think that's maybe something that Cubs fans are having a tough time coming to terms with. But you've got years and years of control of this guy now, as you just stated, Mitch. So let's hope it pans out. Trust in Jed. I like the move.
Yeah, would you rather have guys that Jeff won't remember their names? Or would you rather have guys that Jeff can commit to, I'm going to learn this guy's name?
Yeah.
Last name is Busch. I mean, it kind of Jeff will be all over it.
I mean,
Jeff's
it helps
gonna get
Jeff
a Busch
out.
jersey like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole time you guys keep saying his last name, I'm like, man, it'd be cool if his last name was Hunt. I'd buy that jersey.
Yeah. Oh,
First
With the
and
whole
last name on it.
Full name. Wow. Yeah. Thinking about this trade, this is why you want to have a stacked farm system to make trades like this. And we knew that coming into the season. Our farm system just kept getting ranked higher and higher and higher.
Like poker chips.
Yeah, like poker chips. So yeah, so you got to spend a few to draw out the big fish. I think I like the trade. This is what I kind of expected, was a couple of these names we've been watching for maybe a year or two to get traded off, because it's not it's not like the NFL. Your first round draft pick's going to be a starter the next year. You got to wait, 3 to 7 years before you might see him, depending.
Yeah.
And I think it tells you a little bit with where Jed and Carter see the organization too. I think that says that they see, one, our pitching infrastructure is set, and we have some dudes coming up that are going to solidify and be staples in our rotation for years to come. And that we have position players that are young. And instead of getting the Trey Mancinis and the Eric Hosmers, they're like, no, we're going to get a guy that's going to be here. And kind of like the Anthony Rizzo, I don't want to compare them to, because I think they're totally different. But it's like, no, we're going to go get a young guy that we're going to invest in, because we're going to have all these other guys come up with him and are going to work with. We're going to have a PCA that's super ready. We have a young Christopher Morel. We have young guys that are going to come up that are going to be playing right alongside him. And we're going to go have veteran guys alongside. So I think it's a great saying. I kind of picture him more as like a Ben Zobrist type, like a young Ben Zobrist. Ben Zobrist hit a lot of home runs when he was young. He was great with Tampa and could kind of play all over the field. And Michael Busch can do that. I think right now he's going to play a lot of first base. I think that's going to be where he sits. But if we do go get Bellinger, and Bellinger needs to play first, and Busch needs to be DH or fill out an outfield or play a second base if Nico gets hurt, I think that's an option that we have with him that other teams wouldn't be able to have. They didn't have a Michael Busch on their team. So I think it's a great pickup. I think it helps the major league club right now. So it's great.
So getting back to a comment you made at the end of last year's season, do you think Craig Counsell has the combination to the safe that holds the pencil that writes the lineup card this year?
I think he does.
A million percent.
He better. He better.
Yeah.
Main thing.
Yeah. He wouldn't have taken the job if he didn't. I guarantee that was part of the negotiation. I really quick want to touch on another goofy goober comment here. We're all goofy goobers. He says, I really liked Ferris. We don't have a bunch of really solid pitching prospects. And I want to touch on something that's talked about a lot in fantasy baseball circles, which is the TIN stop acronym. Really, bear with me here. There is no such thing as a pitching prospect. If you go back, I mean, let's think about this really quick. Like a couple of my favorite things and I always bring in fantasy baseball spins whenever I can. But some of my favorite things, like with the fantasy baseball season, is to try to find breakout pitchers. And a lot of the time, breakout pitchers, like breakout starting pitchers, maybe weren't like super highly touted, heralded pitching prospects. Maybe they figured out one thing in AA or AAA, like it could just be like different grip. Maybe their release was a little bit off. Something in their mechanics, it's like one little change that can make them the next big thing. I mean, Spencer Strider, like, I don't know if Spencer Strider was a top prospect. I hadn't even heard his name. Somebody picked him up off waivers. Looking at 2023 here, like Spencer Strider, not even on the Fangraphs board, unless I'm missing something. 2022. Sorry, I'm doing this on the fly, but I'm trying to make a point here. Like, think about guys like. Oh my gosh, there's a guy for the Astros. But the point being, pitching prospects are extremely volatile. Yeah, Cody says in the comments, Justin Steele wasn't a highly touted pitching prospect. Look at him. Adbert Alzolay he was a Cubs top 10 prospect, but I don't think anybody expected him to be a lights out closer like he was last season. You know, jury's still out. Can he put up those numbers 2 years in a row? We'll see. I sure hope he can. But the point being, like, pitching prospects flame out all the time. Arm injuries happen all the time. And the fact that Jackson Ferris is 19 years old, and the earliest you'd probably see him is, like I said earlier in the podcast, maybe end of 2026, early 2027, you make this deal 10 times out of 10. Because whether you have to trust that Jed and company have been drafting well and know what they're doing. And they're going to be able to backfill, whether it's trading off a major league piece in the future for minor league talent or drafting more minor league talent. High school pitching is plentiful. And all it takes, like I said, is one tweak to make a guy ready for the next level and come onto the scene after you didn't even hear his name, a la Spencer Strider, who, as I'm looking at this, I don't think he was ever ranked as a top 100 prospect. And now he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. So there's no such thing as a pitching prospect. There's my spiel.
Let's stick with the hitting, and then we'll jump to relief pitching. So we got one bat to fill one area of need, which we've talked about forever, corners and center field. We need to fill in. And I think they're still going to fill in more, even with getting Michael Busch. Who's one other bat besides Cody Bellinger that the Cubs need to go and get? I'm just going to assume that the Cubs are going to sign Cody Bellinger, because I don't think Dansby Swanson would say what he said at CubsCon if he doesn't have a little, or maybe he's just trying to put his foot on the throat of Jed and Carter and like, hey, like, just do it. Like, do it. What other bat would you like to see the Cubs go get? Start with you, Kevin.
Oh, I really struggled with this. I'll tell you, because I kept looking at the Cubs 40-man roster and then looking at the free agents, the top free agents. Because, well, one, I tried to look into what might be some like kind of trades or something like that we could pick up, and it's really hard with how close to the chest the Cubs front office is, which is a good thing, but it means we can't like pick their brain and figure something out. Based on where I was looking, the highest projected WAR free agent bat after Belly, maybe even before Belly, was Matt Chapman at third base. but I don't know. My thing was like, is third base getting too crowded? One, is he going to want? We've seen the Cubs be hesitant on long-term deals. Is he going to want a short-term deal? That's where I don't know. I really struggle. Mitch gave us some homework to do this week, folks, and this one I'm gonna slough this question off because I don't really know. I had a hard time. My bet, just going off of WAR and positions potentially open, was Matt Chapman at third base, but I don't know that I feel good about it.
Okay.
Jeff, make me feel better.
I can't make you feel better about Matt Chapman. I just can't. And here's the deal. Yeah, he does have a Gold Glove caliber defense. And he got off to a hot start last year, like MVP caliber season. Like he started the season off with a 1051 OPS. But then he cooled off, and to hit 666. You talk about putting a nail in the coffin right there, man. 666.
Look at you in the numbers.
My goodness.
I love it.
But
He put the glasses on, folks.
and last year also was his lowest home run total at 17.
Okay, I like it.
I don't know if a change of scenery could help a guy out and get him out of a slump, but yeah, looking at like some of these bats that are available, like we have a crowded outfield. We're getting to the point where we have a crowded like middle infield. Our biggest needs are corners. I don't know. We talked about Michael Busch going to first base, playing there. So Matt Chapman might be the best available option unless you can get Ray's Hoskins to play third base.
No,
it's not going to happen.
Okay, here's my I have two. So I would get Brennan Belt and pair him with Michael Busch over at first in using more as a DH. And then just either let Christopher Morel and Patrick Wisdom and Nick Madrigal, like the three-headed monster over there, like do their thing and kind of just ride with them, kind of like we did last year. Or, I know people are going to hate this. You trade Christopher Morel and a couple other top prospects, and you go get Alex Bregman from the Astros.
My God.
I am, as you know.
I'm just saying that more a little bit for like a hot take of like, hey, if that happened and I was right, like that'd be a pretty good one.
What's
like,
it going to take to get the trash can? So you can bring that with him.
But
first of all, I mean Bregman's in a contract year.
Yes.
So you're trading Morel for an Morel plus possibly.
I'm just saying it just to get a rise out of some people.
Hey, I'm being serious with my take.
My supper almost
serious. I took the assignment serious.
I was serious with Brandon Belt. Like I think that would be.
Cody says, "All right, Mitch, don't let me talk myself into it. Let me talk you out of it, Cody. Let me talk you out of it." Bregman is a product of the Crawford box at is it still Minute Maid? Still Minute Maid, right? Alex Bregman, his numbers have been inflated by having his home field, Minute Maid Park. And if he's smart, if it's up to him, like he signs the rest of his career in Houston. Otherwise, I think he's going to fall off. I have made the mistake of having Alex Bregman on my fantasy team multiple times, and he has let me down. I think each time I've had him on my team. And then, of course, the year I don't draft him, he has a good season. But no.
Would that be the year they're open series?
Not all at once, children. I am very open to the idea of trading Christopher Morel for the right return. Like I think that it makes sense because his defensive home is up in the air. But if they can commit to him playing third base, because Craig Counsell, we keep coming back to that quote, like Craig Counsell, believes in Christopher Morel. Paraphrasing, but that's basically, he gave him a vote of confidence. That said, if Morel's playing third base, which again, Jed values defense, we know that, so it's probably not likely. But if he can stomach that, the bat to get, who's DHing? JD Martinez.
Ooh.
It's JD Martinez. It's so obvious. Like, I remember hearing his name in rumors at the beginning of the offseason. I was like, I don't know. I don't really know how that fits. You guys, his numbers last season were insane. And Jed says he wants guys to be able to hit righties. JD Martinez had an 880 OPS. He's a right-handed bat, but he had an 880 OPS against righties last year and hit 24 home runs against right-handed pitching. The dude's bat is still...
Jake won, guys. He beat us.
I just looked this up because, like, I was thinking maybe like peripheral guys, like, you know, maybe you take if we don't sign Bellinger, but you need some lefty pop, like, do you take another shot on Jock Peterson? Do you look at a retread like Dominic Smith and see if maybe he plays for a competitive team? Does that work? Austin Meadows, he was out last year with mental health issues. Is he back on track mentally? Can he regain, all-star caliber form? But it's like, no, the answer is staring you right in the face with JD Martinez. He had his batted ball data last year. I won't get into the numbers. You can look it up for yourself on Baseball Savant. The best of his career. I mean, percentile ranking wise.
I don't remember what month it was, but I had JD Martinez on my fantasy league, and he carried me for like a month, like a month or two.
May and September were both. I mean, he had like because
I even picked him up when they got hurt.
The season, yeah.
He got hurt for a stretch, and I like let him go, and nobody picked him up, and I picked him back up when he came off, and like just rode him again. Like he probably got hurt. It looks like in August, and then September he came back, 8 home runs with an 1117 OPS. So yeah, the guys still got it. We were shuffling players in and out of our DH spot last year. If you're a competitive team, you've got a guy that you can slot into the DH every day. And JD Martinez, you're not going to have to commit a lot of years to him contract-wise. He's 36 years old. So
we need our own Big Papi.
And I think that would take, if you have that power, which we've talked about, this lineup needs some pop. There you get Michael Busch with some pop. You add JD Martinez with some pop. You keep Morel in at third base. Morel or Wisdom, you have some pop. Is there going to be some strikeouts? Yes. But then you can like kind of live a little bit with Morel's defense. But he's so athletic. He's going to make plays. Like, so you just kind of like, I mean, there you just kind of got to live with it. So, yeah.
And Goofy Goober makes another point, Mitch, too. He makes a good point. He would prefer a lefty-righty platoon of Busch and Hoskins because you mentioned Brandon Bell, which I'm not opposed to, but if we've got Busch, a lefty, yeah. So I don't know. Like if you are looking for DH and you do need a lefty, then maybe Belt's like the last resort. But I wouldn't hate it if it's less. I'd also love Joey Votto. I just love Joey Votto.
Yes.
I love Joey Votto.
Right.
I love Joey Votto. Like
I put that out there on Twitter a month ago and got just rocked of people did not want Joey Votto. I was like, what's all this hate about Joey Votto?
He's a good dude.
If you were on the Cubs, people would love Joey Votto. Cubs fans would love that. They would.
And they'd all start doing some yoga.
Look at the kind of character and integrity Joey Votto has. He played for how many years in that losing franchise?
Yeah.
Re-signed contract. I mean, just think what he'd do for the Cubs. He might trim the ivy, paint the chalk lines. You don't know. He probably bust his ass.
Well, I said that I wanted this episode to go 45 minutes, and we're at 48, and we haven't even touched on relief pitching. So let's hit on relief pitching. We can go over. It's all right. We got Almonte in the trade. I think he is going to be a perfect Hotovy type bullpen arm where he's going to be somebody that he has had like a every other year, a good year, bad year, good year, bad year. And we're just happen to get him on a good year, hopefully. But I think he's going to be a great guy that we're going to sit in, and he's going to fill the role that Michael Fulmer filled for us last year. Almonte might go through struggles, but he's gonna find it this year. And I think he's going to be a great Hotovy type arm to kind of build back up, and we're going to see a solid year out of him. But when we look at other relief pitchers that we have, we do have some guys that are coming back that already kind of have roles in this bullpen. Elsley is probably going to be our closer. Merriweather is going to be a 7-8 guy. Leiter will probably be a 7-8 guy. Hopefully we don't burn his arm out like we did last year. We have Was that's going to come back. Hopefully we don't burn his arm out. We have the guy that I think is going to fill a huge role this year is Luke Little. I think Luke Little did not get utilized as much as he should have last year towards the end of the season. He struck out 12 and only gave up 5 hits in 5 appearances. Like, he hardly got any appearances towards the end of the season, just kind of rode the bench. But the dude's is filthy. Give him a full season from the left side. I think he's gonna fill a huge role in that bullpen. And then you have Drew Smiley, who's back. I think he could be the long guy in that bullpen, but we still have some holes there, as we saw, especially last year. Even with the same guys back towards the end of the season, we just ran out of steam of having guys that we can count on to get outs. And so, who are 2 guys? And you don't need to give a huge spiel, just give a little kind of your take on hey, we need this guy. This would fill a huge role in this bullpen. Ready and go. Let's start with Jeffrey.
No. Not do it. Kevin, go with Kevin.
Kevin.
Great. So I was doing some research. I thought there's a couple.
Jeff, you just don't want to take hate because you want hater. I know it. All right, Kevin, back to it.
Dude, we sat next to him at the game in Milwaukee. Remember that? He didn't pitch that night because we got rocked, so he was up in the stands. It's great.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, on my little list here, I had Josh Hader because he's tied to council, but I don't know that's maybe, I don't know. But when I was looking through, there was a couple. I looked specifically at lefty relievers, and Matt Moore kind of popped up on my radar a little bit. Wandy Peralta as well, kind of both lefties. Both are kind of interesting. Could be those potential kind of, I don't know if you call them reclamation projects that the Cubs typically work with, maybe a little bit, but they could be a plug in to fill out the relief pitching, like you talked about. Those were kind of the 2 that spiked up on my radar: Matt Moore and Wandy Peralta. Jake.
Yeah, I agree with.
Nice.
I also had Matt Moore at the top of my list. I think he's a guy that's been rumored for the Cubs for a long time, in different years. Over the years, he's been a good match, and he actually, I didn't look into this, I'm reading the fantasy outlook for this year, but oddly, Moore exhibits reverse splits, so he's more than a matchup lefty. That's good. Put him in there. So he's a left-handed lighter. And then I also had Robert Stevenson. I know that Twitter, I believe our buddy Cody, I think Cody was yelling for Robert Stevenson, but Robert Stevenson last year, 3.10 ERA with a 0.88 whip. I believe in September, let me pull this up really quick. September, 0.93 ERA with a 0.52 whip, 15.8 Ks per 9, 0.9 walks per 9. You think the Cubs bullpen could have used that in September last year? Because I do. And then just an honorable mention, keep an eye out. I think the Cubs will re-sign Cody Hoyer to some kind of contract. He's still out there, and I would imagine just for continuity that somehow they'll get Cody Hoyer back in the mix. Jeff, are you ready now?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. I'm sandbagging. Well, you guys are going to piss me because
Mitch.
I love Josh Hader. He's got a great windup and the flowing locks.
I'll never forget. I was at a game. Jason Hayward hit a 3-run bomb off of Josh Hader, I think, to send him to extras.
Even a blind hog will find a truffle every now and again. Okay, he just threw his bat out there. He made contact. It happened to get over the fence.
That ugly swing of Jason.
It's not like it was a tape measure home run. It probably.
Yes, it was. No, it was destroyed. It was destroyed. If I can find it, I'll tweet out the.
Let me guess.
The video.
He did it when he was with the Dodgers.
No, it was with the Cubs. Mitch, who are your guys?
So I had Wandy Peralta as one of them. David Robertson, bring back him, former Cub. He could be a great guy. One, just a stable piece. He's a dude that can just shove, go out there and get innings. The other guy that I have is Hector Neris. Is it Neris?
Neris.
From the Astros.
Yeah.
The dude is a stud. The dude's
Yeah.
like, if you would just go and watch his YouTube clips, like I remember watching him in the playoffs. I mean, that's the thing. He's have playoff experience, pitch in high leverage situations. He's been a 7-8 guy for the Astros, and the Astros are playing in competitive baseball year round all the time, trying to make the playoffs, like gone through it. He's probably looking at a 2-3 year deal, probably around $10 million. Over the past 4 seasons, been a reliable guy, pitched in 68 games consistently for them. Last year, he had a 1.71 ERA. Like, the dude is perfect for the 8th inning role. The dude can absolutely shove. Like, love watching him pitch. So I would love for them to go get him. The thing is, I think they just need depth. They're gonna, like, Hoyer's gonna eventually over time go out and get some relief arms. It's just a matter of time. But that guy that you're getting very quality, and you're not gonna pay probably the hater price.
Yeah, Cody predicts more randos, and I was trying to find like random names in there.
Didn't Stevenson
is a random name.
Cody put up Stevenson. I thought he just signed with the Reds.
I said Stevenson.
Didn't he? I thought I saw somewhere that he was going to sign.
He was listed as a free agent on Spotrac or whatever, however you say that website. So
I thought I saw somewhere that he was going to sign, or he was like, maybe it was just in talks with the Reds. And I was like, gosh, the Reds, I thought you guys were done and not doing anything anymore.
And I'm going to try to find a random name here. Let's say the Cubs will sign Keenan Middleton. He's not super random. He had one good season. I think he was a closer for the Angels one year. Like a Keenan Middleton or
how come
Wilking Rodriguez.
How come nobody's mentioned bringing back Big Country? Chafin.
He got signed to a multi-year deal, I think, in Detroit.
Yeah, I think he went back to Detroit. Went to the Tigers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I searched for him too. I was like, oh yeah.
I'd really love to see the beater bird back in Chicago.
Right. The beater bird back doing some fishing.
Well, for me, it's just good to be back in the mics and talking some Cubs baseball. We can talk about who we would like them to get. Hopefully by the time we talk next time, they've signed some guys. It's a lot more fun to talk about guys who we actually have playing for us. Like, it was fun talking about Michael Busch. It was fun talking about Almonte. It was fun talking about Imanaga, because those are guys who we actually have. And so we can kind of see how they play out. This predict stuff, it's not fun. That's partly why we haven't done an episode for a while. Cause it's like, I don't want to like talk about these hypotheticals and talk about random guys that.
Do you mean like pandemic type podcast where we're all picked a Japanese baseball team?
Yep.
To win.
Yep. So this
Korean baseball.
We were picking our
KBO.
favorite Korean baseball, and we were gonna ride that. Yeah, Yep. So this is a lot more fun, like to talk about guys who are actually. So hopefully by the time we get around to doing another podcast, which hopefully next week they sign somebody and forces us to do another podcast.
Pitchers and catchers report in a month.
So we'll definitely be picking up. So it'd be good to be talking about guys that we're getting. So hopefully by next week we have Cody Bellinger, and we have some more guys that we can talk about that are actually Chicago Cubs. And
JD Martinez, you are a Chicago Cub.
Love it. Speaking into existence.
I love it.
So that does it for this episode. Again, we want to plug On Tap Sports Network. We're proud to be part of them, and Cubs on Tap. So make sure you go check out those guys. But yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for everybody in the comments. We love the chat popping off to be able to just chop it up with us and ask us questions. So keep that up. We love that. We might disagree sometimes, but we love just the interaction and talking about Cubs baseball. That's what we're all about, building a community and supporting one another through a difficult Cubs season. Hopefully this year it's not going to be a difficult Cubs season. It's going to be a very fun, enjoyable Cubs season. That's what I'm hoping for. So thanks for listening to episode. I don't know. We're at like 140, 1 of the Dingers podcast.
Nice.
right.
We're real close to a cake episode.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
Definitely close. So thanks for listening. Go Cubs.
Hey, if you guys were a French fry, what kind of French fry would you want to be?
The pub fries, the crispy like pub brew fries.
Yeah. I'm going crinkle cut because I'd have all those ridges to hang on to all the ketchup.
I would go
Nice,
sweet
nice.
potato fries.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Sleeper pick.
Yeah.
I just had Texas Roadhouse last night, so I'd go steak fries. Nice.
Oh yeah.
Thick
There you
steak.
go.
Fries.
Do you dip yours in A1 if you have steak fries?
Yeah, if I got
Dude.
A1.
It's
There you go.
tangy.
Yep. Right
All
on
right.
the lips.
I like it. Thanks for listening and go Cubs.